What is up, guys? Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today, it's been a busy past few days. A ton of brand new Shadowkeep information has been trickling out. If you guys want to see my early access videos such as exploring the moon, doing the brand new remade Nightfall, all of that stuff, check the channel. There's been a lot of stuff coming out, and it's pretty likely that you missed it or, YouTube just didn't notify you, especially these days. But today, I wanted to focus on an overview of Shadowkeep and discuss one of the main issues that I've seen come up quite a bit. It's something that I've thought about myself, and that is the issue of nerfs. And that's because Shadowkeep seems to be, as a whole, rectifying the mistakes of Forsaken, or at least what Bungie believes is the mistakes of Forsaken. And that results in an absolutely astronomical amount of nerfs. Like, if we look at what's actually being nerfed in Shadowkeep, it's astounding. So, we've got all supers. Like, pretty much all supers are going to be weaker. You're going to have less health when you're in them, in PvP and in PvE. In addition to that, the auto-reloading perks such as Rally Barricade and Well of Radiance, those are being nerfed. It just increases reload speed. And then we have the fact that getting your super is going to be way harder. Orbs give less super energy, and getting kills, getting assists, that gives less super energy, so less supers overall, and it's harder to chain them. Then, miners are kind of getting buffed because the headshot damage, the precision damage, which right now doubles incoming damage, is being taken away, the doubling factor is being taken away, and so a lot of gun types are going to be significantly worse. When I was playing Shadowkeep early, something I noticed is that you couldn't one-shot kill red bar acolytes that were at your level. They were not over-leveled, they're at your level with a 110 hand cannon with Rampage. So, enemies are getting harder to kill. And, speaking of Rampage, all of the good weapon perks are getting nerfed as well. Rampage, Swashbuckler, Kill Clip, Multi-Kill Clip, and some of the unique pinnacle perks as well, such as the Recluse pinnacle perk, that's getting nerfed too. So the nerfs are overwhelming within this update. Oh, and I forgot to mention that damage stacking is changing as well, so your overall damage output in PvE has been lowered significantly too. So again, there's a lot of nerfs. But that isn't inherently a bad thing. What is Bungie's explanation for these nerfs? And they basically said what I said at the beginning of the video. They are trying to fix, they're trying to rectify their, mistakes made with Forsaken. Forsaken was, a big apology for what happened with Destiny 2. And Destiny 2 slowed everything down on release compared to Destiny 1. It introduced the double primary weapon system, so your damage output was significantly lower, abilities recharged way less, all of that stuff, and players just didn't like it. They wanted the power back. And so Forsaken was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Power shot through the roof. You got super energy way more often, super spam went through the roof. Not only that, it was a double-edged sword because you were way harder to kill in your super, especially when compared to D1, not to mention supers in general are way more powerful than they were in D1, and pretty much everything is a roaming super as well now. And although initially players loved that, and it was a welcome change from Destiny 2 launch, it got a little tiresome and things spiraled out of control. And that spiraling out of control is what Bungie often points to for the reason for these nerfs. Because they keep introducing new things, and those interact with an already ridiculous system to make it even more ridiculous. A great example is Well of Radiance plus Lunafaction boots, and then you introduce the Mountaintop, which on its own is certainly not overpowered, but in a Well of Radiance is absolutely ridiculous when it instantly reloads. And for the most part, I think players would agree with that statement, that things got out of control. In PvP, certainly, super spam was one of the biggest issues and biggest complaints going for that community. Like, you have a one-eyed masked titan with bottom tree striker sprinting at you, what are you gonna do? Well, you're going to run away or you're going to die for the most part. Shutting down supers became not nearly impossible, but, nearly impossible. And players would just elect to run away, jump off the map instead of actually challenging supers. It's super rare to be playing PvP and actually have teammates that are willing to challenge a super if you are willing to challenge a super as well. Like, it just got very frustrating and annoying to play against. PvE players as well, although we were kind of reaping the rewards and there wasn't really, the point of view of the Minotaur you're killing, it was definitely trivialized in the sense that every single damage encounter came down to popping a Well of Radiance with Lunafaction boots and going to town with these ridiculously powerful weapons. Frankly, it got so bad that, for raiding, there wasn't really a point to having Titans on your raid team, and Hunters you could almost argue as well. Just as many Lunafaction, Warlocks as you could possibly squeeze in, and you were good to go. So obviously, things needed to change. However, is it really this many things that need to change? Has Bungie perhaps gone a little too far? Because of course, although on paper, the reason for these nerfs makes total sense, and I'm not disparaging Bungie for doing this. In fact, I think that this is a very bold move to say, look, we messed up, we let things get crazy, and we've got to kind of press the reset button, actually have content feel challenging again, actually introduce new options into the PvE and PvP meta, because there's such clear top contenders right now. We need things to change, and good on Bungie for being brave enough to admit that. With that being said, for the average player and for, the random dude that doesn't read the TWABs, doesn't watch any Destiny content, he's going to go one day from Season of Opulence and the next day into Shadowkeep, and he's going to be like, why am I so much weaker? Why can't I kill these enemies right in front of me that previously were no problem to me? Why can't I do this? And that's not a great feeling, because that's the feeling that we all felt from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. It's the feeling of, oh, I'm weaker than I previously was. And I mean, the tagline for this game is become legend, not become substantially less powerful than you were the previous day. So I can understand why people are not happy about these nerfs currently, and I can foresee a lot of people being very unhappy with their state of their Guardian in Shadowkeep when they confront all these nerfs hitting them at once. So, are there any changes that I disagree with, nerfs I feel shouldn't have been enacted? Well, for the most part, I am in agreement with a lot of these things. After playing Shadowkeep, the reload speed increases from Rally Barricade, I felt like that should be a little bit higher, because just the fact that you have to take a second to reload is bad enough, and it kind of just halves the reload speed. But mainly, I'm not sure about the changes to miners. I felt that was a little unnecessary, especially when combined with all these other nerfs. Because the fact of the matter is, if 110 hand cannons cannot kill an acolyte, a red bar enemy, with a single shot, nobody is going to use 110 hand cannons. Nobody. The reason people use hand cannons in PvP right now is because they can one-shot, especially when you stack all those rampage perks and so on. But if they're all a two-shot, I mean, that's not great. And my main worry with that is that you're going to have certain gun types, I'm mainly thinking hand cannons and scout rifles, that because they lose their one-shot kill capabilities, they're just going to fall off the map. And everyone's going to be using something like auto rifles, SMGs potentially, pulse rifles, stuff that already requires multiple shots. If your auto rifle takes 2 more shots to kill, it doesn't really matter. You're already firing fully automatic. Like, if your hand cannon takes an extra shot to kill, if your scout rifle takes an extra shot to kill, that is devastating. And I'm also somewhat concerned about the super nerfs. Not in their existence entirely, I 100% agree something should have been done, but in the fact that we again had a double-edged sword. You got supers too often, and they were too powerful. So, you could have potentially solved the problems of supers by addressing one of those two issues. Reducing the super spam, making them so that you get them once or twice a game, and that way, even though they're powerful, they're not as insane as they are now. Or making them substantially less powerful so that you can shotgun melee kill a guy in his super, and then if you have a little bit of super spam, because you can shut them down so often, it wouldn't matter as much, right? Bungie chose to address both of them, reduce super spam and reduce how powerful they are. Now, absolutely, this could have been the right approach, but my worry comes from the fact of playing thousands of hours of Destiny 1, and that evolved kind of a scenario in so many PvP games where someone would have one successful super, and because super regeneration was overall pretty low, if that team was able to get their like 5 orbs, they just won the game, and it spiraled out of control, and you had basically no chance to come back. Right? Like, it's kind of an interesting scenario where supers get lowered down in terms of recharge, but they become more important because if you only get 2 supers a game, you gotta make them matter so much. So whoever gets the lucky slam just like wins the game because of the orbs and all that stuff. Now, with that being said, obviously, although that was an annoying factor in Destiny 1, I'm not entirely sure it was more annoying than the constant bottom tree striker super spam, constant spectral blades spam we have right now. Dawnblade too, let's be honest. So that I'm really going to have to play with more before I decide if it was a good or bad thing, but we also have to talk about the fact that most of the complaints about super spam, in fact all of the complaints, because again, Minotaurs don't complain, was involving PvP, and yet supers were dramatically lowered, or are going to be dramatically lowered in PvE. So yes, bottom tree striker, we've been memeing on it all video and it was a problem, but absolutely nobody ran bottom tree striker in PvE. And yet, now it's substantially worse. In fact, all supers in PvE are substantially worse. Now, there was some ridiculousness, and you had things like the Dire Skull of Ahamkara, or the Skull of Dire Ahamkara, plus Cataclysm Nova Bomb, but that was already nerfed. And so the chaining of supers really dropped down dramatically. Yes, it was a big problem. You couldn't one-shot, headshot enemy supers with a sniper, but in PvE, God forbid you got close to a named enemy or a big yellow bar, you got crushed, even when you were in your super. And the amount of protection that they lowered supers by, like, it's enough to now be able to do certain things in PvP. It matters a lot more there. But in PvE, it doesn't make that big of a difference other than the fact that you're weaker overall. And so that is and will always be a very interesting dilemma in Destiny 2. The balance between PvP and PvE, and buffs and nerfs for one half of the game can affect the other half. But then of course now you have things like Gambit that blend both sides of the game, so they're impacted by everything. But overall, I think my biggest hope is that Bungie is monitoring the game and can take swift action. If they went too far with these nerfs, which is a distinct possibility, yes, the reasoning all makes sense. We all agree that, yeah, probably better for Bungie to take this step than to not, but there is definitely the possibility that they went too far with certain things. And I hope that it doesn't take another year for the next big fall expansion to potentially address these things. Bungie needs to be a little bit more swift with interacting with the community and the game. So if miners are too annoying, if we have gun types like hand cannons and scouts that fall off the edge, if certain supers, because of the weakening factors, are just not viable in PvE anymore, then next season, with Season of the Dawn, in only 2 or 3 months, we need to see some action taken to address these things. Because that is one of the biggest factors on why buffs and nerfs in Destiny 2 matter so much. It's the longevity. If they nerf something too hard, if they buff something too much, we have to deal with that something for a ridiculous amount of time. So while I am happy that Bungie took the risk to press that reset button and do what they felt is better for the game, I also really hope that they're going to be able to enact or undo changes in a reasonable amount of time. And so guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. What do you guys think about these nerfs? Are they too far? Are they not far enough? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.